There's been a lot of work done by various statutory authorities and institutions like the ASX to try and engage corporations to set targets for women in leadership. So organisations who've had success in it have had to tackle it in a multitude of ways. They have set targets, they've made leaders accountable, so linking remuneration, bonuses, to diversity outcomes helps change behaviour. And then they've done a lot of cultural change initiatives, so awareness and training around things like unconscious bias, around inclusive leadership, around how to really create inclusive workplaces where you can have a flexible working career and move in and out of parenting. And it's a long-term venture. So all of these factors have to come together for there to be real change in the workplace. And for organisations and industries where there's almost like a mandate from their board and their CEO and their shareholders, that progress is much quicker because people will behave in a way that gets rewarded.
I think that in ensuring that organisations recruit more women, one of the things that would make a great big difference is to change the language of an advertisement. Advertisements usually have a gendered language behind them, so when you see an advertisement for a teacher, you often see words like supportive or collaborative, and those are associated with women. I don't know whether that's it's because teaching is associated with women or because women are associated with teaching, but that's the way it happens. With men, words are often things like dominant or competitive, or I saw an advertisement for a CEO recently that required that the person have presence and stature, which is, in my view, coded for a bloke. Another thing that would make a difference to the number of women that are recruited by any organisation would be implicit bias training. Everyone has some sort of bias. That's one of the ways that we make decisions more quickly as humans, but bias interferes with the way that you make decisions in recruiting. I think being aware of your biases and being taught ways of compensating for those biases would make a huge difference to the way that, or to the number of women that are recruited by an organisation. Another thing that we could do to make sure that more women are recruited is to gender-blind applications for as long as is possible.
And I really do think that blind interviewing and blind CVs, even if it was just used as a starting point, so you actually got a more diverse body of applicants, if you like, rather than it just being always at the senior end of it just being basically 90 to 99% male. So taking out those markers that identify women, if you like. That has actually worked very well in the university sector for the higher end roles that are around.
I do think that having role models in businesses is very important, that there are women who get out there and speak and do things and have presence, that thing, presence and stature, and that they are spoken about and respected as much as men are. Other things that I think would make it easier to attract women into particular organisations are changes in corporate culture. I think culture comes a lot from leadership, and if leaders were more prepared to open up and include women in discussions, in roundtable discussions, were more prepared to call out bad behaviour.
You would also look at your leadership. I mean, getting the CEO, the senior leadership team, the board on board is really essential, because that's what gets done. When a directive comes from the CEO, or when something's important to the senior leaders, it becomes important to the organisation. Or it could be something as subtle as trying to make sure that the language people use in their workplace is inclusive. Or it could be making people aware of where they mess up in terms of their decision making in a non-blaming way, because you don't. One thing I really believe in is giving people the opportunity to self-improve, and sometimes people can't be held responsible for their past behaviour if they're not aware of where they went wrong. But if you educate, and then you have high expectations, and then you reward on that basis, then the evidence shows that people will change their behaviour. So it's a multitude of factors coming together that involves leadership, data, culture, policies and practices.